Right, there you have it there. We're taking you back now to KZN. This is at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. As you can see there, President Cyril Ramaphosa has just arrived there for a quick walkabout the stadium. This is ahead of that address he will be giving just after midday. From what we know right now is that he will be speaking shortly after midday. And of course, in the greater morning and greater scheme of things, what we've been hearing was some of the latest conversations to come out of there. This was as the foundations for this particular day were being laid, insofar as some of the analysis as well as some of the bread and butter issues that have come to the fore that South Africans have reflected on throughout the course of this morning. And of course, let's take you there and get in to find out what's really happening. And of course, also just to give you a brief recap of everything that has happened also thus far. Our colleagues, they also touched base on the attendance as well as crunched some numbers insofar as some of the people that kept trickling into the stadium. You know, this was also at a time where they were talking to us about KZN as what was called a battleground for some of the political parties that will be contesting for the upcoming elections here in the country. And of course, also touching on the political landscape there in the province. I think it was our political editor Mzwai who said that this will definitely be one of the most hotly contested election that we're heading to as a country, and also touching there on some of the by-elections that we've seen happening over the past few weeks or so, and also looking at the various possibilities these upcoming elections may possibly bring in terms of which parties may decide to collaborate or form coalitions, as well as making sense of some of the conversations that we've had, especially with the new players that are coming in right now, such as the MK party, and factoring in terms of what this all means now for the ruling party. And this is also at a time when today, with this particular manifesto launch, the Maithome manifesto launch, they plan to paint KZN black, green and gold. And as you can see, there's scores of supporters busy waving there to the president as he continues with his engagement and as he continues there to exchange pleasantries. We can also see him there posing for a photo or two. This is also happening at a time where he's getting ready to give that address around midday or so. He's doing this walkabout, you know, at a time where we've also heard some of our colleagues in the greater part of the morning as well, just, you know, laying the foundations for what he's likely to say, for what he's likely to touch on, particularly when it comes to matters that are closest and dearest to the hearts of most South Africans, particularly as we're heading to this very critical election. And as we continue to also take stock of what has been happening, you know, we've got also some of the numbers there around the people that are there at the stadium, as well as we also heard that there's also an overflow area because they were expecting scores and scores of people, as you can see there, that have shown up to the stadium. And also, here's an interesting fact, is that the ruling party itself launched its manifesto back in 2019 as well at the very same stadium in Moses Mabhida. And at this particular one, they used a tagline that said, "Let's grow South Africa together." I heard some of our colleagues just talking there at length on whether or not he's managed to actually do that, because we heard of how they were also bringing up some sort of a scorecard or a sheet where they're able to check and see what has been done thus far. And in that particular manifesto, you know, it spoke about a huge chunk of the manifesto focused on spurring the SA economy to be the greater creator of jobs and economic growth. But of course, we're taking you there momentarily back to the stadium where our colleague Bongiwe Zwane is on standby to continue with the conversations.
The scenes here at Moses Mabhida Stadium as the ANC's leadership arrives at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. President Cyril Ramaphosa there, and you can see the chairperson of the ANC in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Siboniso Duma, the deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, Nomvula Mukonyane, the DSG of the party, as well as the second deputy secretary general there, Marupeni Ramokgopa. There is, of course, quite a lot to talk about this particular moment. As the ANC is launching its national and provincial election manifesto for the election of 2024 that we all know now will be held on the 29th of May. We are still in conversation with Dr. Lubna Nadvi, senior lecturer in political science and international relations at UKZN, as well as my colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, who have been watching these developments for us. Ayanda, perhaps let me bring you in at this particular moment, the importance and the significance of the province of KwaZulu-Natal and why it was this critical moment for the ANC to try and show a strong showing here.
Yeah, this is, as you're saying, Bongo, a very critical and important moment for the ANC. I would imagine that in their discussions, they could have chosen any province to host or to hold their manifesto, but there was probably a reason why specifically they chose to hold the manifesto here in KwaZulu-Natal. We'll speak about the numbers in terms of the support that the ANC gets in KwaZulu-Natal, but most importantly, I think we know of the political developments specifically in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We've seen some of the other bigger political parties setting their sights on KwaZulu-Natal, and of course now with the emergence of Umkhonto weSizwe party, which is linked to former President Jacob Zuma. So this is probably one of the reasons why it necessitated the ANC to come into this province. I mean, we've been hearing them since the morning. You meet members of or leaders of the ANC in the corridors, and the message that they are saying is, we are here to show you that the ANC is still alive. This is going to show you that the ANC is not dead. And I mean, you heard one of the speakers who was on the stage, or one of the MCs, saying the ANC is here and the ANC is still alive. And this is the message that they've been trying to drum throughout the course of the week, to say that this is going to be a show, to say that the ANC in particular here in KwaZulu-Natal, the secretary of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Begim Dolo, has been stressing that the majority of people that are here are going to be coming from KwaZulu-Natal. Well, I'm not too sure if you look at the buses and the taxis that we've seen outside. But again, I think they wanted to prove that the ANC is still alive and that the ANC is strong in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They know that if you look at the numbers, if you look at the support that the ANC received, if you go back to the 2019 national elections, both KZN and Gauteng combined, majority, at least 50, just under 50% of the votes came from KZN and Gauteng. So that must tell you how important this province is. And so I think for this is going to be a statement for the ANC to say to people who might be doubting the ANC, who might be saying they are losing support and they are losing sort of control and power in KwaZulu-Natal, to say, no, we are still strong and we are coming back after this election.
Doc, right at the back of that, because there's a lot of talk even from them about, various leaders of the ANC about how they continue to rely on their loyal supporters on the ground. But how much of that goodwill, 30 years on, can the ANC continue to rely upon, especially when you look at a critical province like KwaZulu-Natal?
Well, absolutely. I think the real issue is how, trusting are the ANC supporters of the party. And 30 years is a long time. And in this time, a lot of things have happened, and this has brought a lot of criticism to the ANC, because the idea of the Rainbow Nation and, all of the wonderful things that were supposed to happen, that hasn't really transpired. So there have been a lot of disappointments. But I think that this rally is a show of force. It's about showing that we still have supporters, we can still fill a stadium, we can still get the people on the ground. How many of these individuals will actually go to the voting stations to actually cast their votes is something that we are not sure about, but they're all here to, perhaps express their support for the ANC. They've got their T-shirts, sometimes people just go to a rally for some of the things that they get from the party, But I think the goodwill aspect of it is something that will only be evident at the polls. This is just a sort of, gathering of people. It's a kind of showing of support, but the real test is at the polls.
And Ayanda, while we talk about the polls, there's very real issues that happen in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and not only the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but the entire country. Yet, this is a province that has a multiplicity of issues. And I wonder then, also the issue of the rural vote, which we've seen over the course of the years. Is that something that they also need to contend with? Because we're also seeing various political parties as well trying to also look at this important aspect of the voter.
Well, certainly. I mean, we've seen more recently, Bongewe, with this new leadership of the ANC, for example, how before, in the build-up to the manifesto, one of the first meetings that they've had is with the Amazulu King, Mrs. Ulugazweletini, to introduce themselves, or basically as a courtesy visit, to say, Your Majesty, we are here in the province, and also then engaging with Amakosi. We've seen them engaging with the chiefs, we've seen them engaging with the traditional leaders, and that then must tell you that it's a way in which they get into the real vote. They know the influence that the king has, they know the influence that Amakosi have in the areas in which they control, and so we have been seeing a lot more focus by the ANC, by its provincial leaders, as well as its national leaders. I mean, they've been crisscrossing the province, literally, Bongewe, into areas that possibly they've really disregarded before. I mean, the ANC has in the past been very much focused in the cities, I mean, in KZN around 2011, we were still speaking about no-go areas, where there were still some areas where the ANC was not as strong at the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, but now we are seeing this greater effort by them moving in, because they realize that that is where the numbers are, and so they need to get to those communities and they need to try and convince those people. Apart from that, we've also been seeing how they've been on the municipalities that or in the rural areas, challenging those municipalities. If there are issues that are emanating or coming out of those areas, we've been seeing them challenging those mayors, even if there are mayors that are aligned to the ANC. So I think this is all a show for them to try and say, we need to move into rural areas and pay attention to the rural areas. Of course, as you're saying, a number of issues that rural communities are still faced with. I mean, till this day, Bongo, people do not have water, people do not have electricity, people are complaining that they do not have houses. And the fact is, rural communities are, I would say, in our engagement with them, which is often on a daily basis, they're not as demanding, I would say, as people in the cities. And so it's often quite sad when you see that just the basics that rural communities are appealing for or would want, that they're not getting that. But certainly, as you're saying, we are seeing the ANC putting more concerted effort into moving into rural municipalities. We've also seen, I mean, linked to that, how they've handled the royal household matter, issues around the King Mrs. Ulugazweletini, and I think that all needs to speak to how they're focused on sort of penetrating and getting into rural areas to win this crucial rural vote.
And it's quite interesting that you talk about that, and there's a lot of issues as well when you think about municipalities and how they've also been in the coalface of service delivery. They've been representatives number one for the different political parties that are in different municipalities. And when we hear from the Auditor General how dysfunctional things are, how they continue, some of them, to use consultants to even do basic jobs like putting together their financials, and also municipalities in distress as well. But Doc, I'd like us to talk about that. But I do understand that the national chairperson of the ANC, Gwedeman Dashem, is already on the podium, and there is, of course, a program that is expected to get underway. Let's listen in for a bit as to what's taking place there.
Having heard what is contained in the manifesto, now all of us, we must be patient. We must be patient and listen carefully. We're going to sing the national anthem. We're going to sing the national anthem.